Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for step 4, we're going to look at the literary devices in Nothing Gold Can Stay. And I want to point out, sometimes kids get really intimidated by finding the literary devices because there can be so much there, and it's kind of a pressure thing to think, oh, what if I don't find them all? My teacher's going to get mad. That's fine. Just stick to what's obvious, stick to what you know that you can clearly see. At least at the beginning of this year, your teacher's going to tell you what to look for and do mini lessons on what they are so that there are no surprises. It's not a mystery hunt where we're trying to catch you not knowing something or make fun of you because you didn't find that obscure, tiny little clue in the text. We're just looking for the big things. Okay, so I'm going to go through just 3 things for Nothing Gold Can Stay, and they should be things that you've probably seen before in 7th grade, so it won't be anything really nuts, and we'll kind of talk about it as we go. The first thing we're going to look for in Nothing Gold Can Stay is imagery, and we also, another way that we talk about imagery is calling it sensory language, because imagery is all about how the author used words to appeal to your 5 senses. So the author's trying to make you feel like you can see what the author is seeing, or hear what the author is hearing, or taste what he or she is tasting. And so, like, for touch and smell as well, can you smell what the author is smelling? Is there a common experience that the author can make come alive to you because you've also had that experience of smelling or touching or tasting or hearing or seeing? So we're going to look for that in Nothing Gold Can Stay. Okay, if you remember, you have your poem in front of you. It says, nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold, her early leaf's a flower. And if we're looking over here, I included a picture of early spring flowers. And the author also says, talks about the leaves changing, and I have a picture of that over here, and he mentions the dawn. And these pieces of imagery would be really helpful for the reader to understand the poem and to understand the meaning of the poem, because these would be things that would all be familiar to the reader, right? Unless you really have never gone outside or seen outside, you've probably seen a spring flower. You've probably seen a tree that used to not have leaves and now it does have leaves. You've probably, if you've gotten up early enough, you've probably seen what the sky looks like at dawn. So when the author includes those images, it helps the reader understand the meaning of the poem, because we can understand what it looks like when a tree changes. We can understand what it looks like when the sky is so beautiful and then it just goes to being regular. So it enhances the meaning of the poem because it's something that we are familiar with. Authors use figurative language and imagery to make something an idea that might not be familiar to you, familiar. They start with something you know, so then they can build on that idea to help you understand their point. And right, the point being nothing that's super precious will stay forever. Good thing, everything ends sometime, and so we can understand that because we've experienced the change of the seasons and how flowers turn to leaves and then turn to nothing. And so that is what the imagery is all about in this poem. Okay, you probably did a ton with similes and metaphors last year in 7th grade, and that's good. I just have a couple examples up here to remind you. Simile is the one that has like in it, right? Simile, the word, has an L, and simile is the one that has like or as. Metaphor is basically the same thing. We're making something that's unfamiliar familiar by making a comparison, but it's the one that doesn't have like or as. It just has like is or are. So instead of you are like a rock, that's a simile. You are a rock. That's a metaphor. Okay? Metaphors are usually a little more forceful because saying he eats like a pig is it's still rude, but it's a little less rude than saying he is a pig, right? That's really rude. Okay, so I would say a pretty big metaphor that's right at the beginning of Nothing Gold Can Stay is that nature's first green is gold, right? The author is not literally saying that little tree buds are made of the precious metal gold, right? But he is saying that those early green spring buds are precious the same way gold is precious. We have an association with gold, that it's a precious metal and it's something we value. And so by saying that the first green is gold, he's saying the first green is as precious as gold, and we should value it just as much as we value those material things in life. Okay, alliteration is one that you've been doing since probably even before elementary school, because this Dr. Seuss book that I've got up here is from, we read it to little tiny kids, 2 and 3-year-olds. Big J, little J, what begins with J? Jerry Jordan's jelly jar and jam begin that way. So alliteration, remember, is when we have that repeated sound at the beginning of the word. Record. Okay, alliteration is really important to the meaning of the poem In Nothing Gold Can Stay, because you can see Robert Frost included a lot of alliteration. In that first line, we've got that green, gold. The second line, her, hardest, hue, hold. And then down here, leaf, leaf. And then down here, dawn, down, day. So here's why it's important to the meaning of the poem. Number one, it just sounds good. We like things that are kind of cool, and alliteration's kind of a cool thing, and it sounds good, and it keeps our attention. It draws attention to those lines. But if you'll notice, he doesn't repeat the alliteration. We start with the G sound, then the H sound, then the L sound, then the D sound. And the fact that nothing stays, we don't get that G alliteration really as much, in the same line. We don't get that. Then it moves to H, and then it changes to L, and then it changes to D, right? We said one of the points of the whole poem is that nothing stays forever, not even the alliteration stays forever. So that's how the alliteration enhances the meaning of the poem. Okay, folks, so I just want to show you how I filled in my last column on the Name and Explain chart. So I jotted down imagery, and I just said what I said in the video, in the PowerPoint slide, that the imagery helps us picture how things change because the images are familiar. And that I just wrote metaphor, gold equals precious. That's what I had talked about on the PowerPoint slide. And then alliteration, the change in alliteration emphasizes the changes in life that Robert Frost is talking about. So that's something that's familiar to us. And I want to point out, because you're probably thinking, but Miss, I saw personification in there, and I saw more stuff. There's rhyme in there. There's all kinds of other literary terms. Yeah, there are. There are lots of things that we could study in that poem. And so, like, if I Google search Robert Frost, Nothing Gold Can Stay, literary terms, check this out. Literary terms. Oh my gosh, 47,900 results, right? People are analyzing the heck out of Nothing Gold Can Stay. They're writing their college thesis about it. I mean, yeah, we only looked at 3 things, and there are a lot of other things. And if you saw personification, that's amazing. You should totally write about it in your column if it's something that was obvious and stuck out to you. But my point is that we don't have to beat the poem to death. You don't have to get all nervous if you're not finding the exact same literary devices that your friends or your teacher find. You're going to respond to a poem in a different way than another person is. And there's more than one way to write about it. Actually, it looks like there are 47,900 ways to write about it, and that is okay. I just went for 3 that I thought were like really obvious and kind of stuck out to me, but you do not have to just be nervous that you're not finding everything. You're not going to find everything, and that's okay. Just do your best. If you only find one thing, that's okay. Just do your best, okay? And here's a hint for when you're taking a test and you're asked to analyze a poem. The multiple choice questions are going to tell you which literary terms to look for. So you don't even have to come up with them on your own on the test. You just look at the multiple choice question and then see if you can find it in the poem, and that makes it easier. But don't worry, your teacher is going to help you kind of know what to look for so that you're not worried about finding 500 things. We're just going to focus on 1 or 2, and that's okay. Don't get all worked up about it. Okay, have a good day.